this idea of being nice and being good was getting me into trouble with myself. What's going on today, guys? It's Yana here again. And today we're going to talk about empathy. And I've been bringing up a few of these topics here and there on my social media, just giving more of the course outline that I'll be coming out with here soon. And this is really geared towards anyone who has had an experience of manipulation in their past. This is really geared towards anyone who has had an experience of manipulation or abuse, whether it's from narcissistic abuse or emotional immaturity from parental figures, spouses, whatever point it is or has been in your life. If you have gone through manipulation, if you have felt like you're in a toxic environment, then I'm really gearing this towards you because I want to be able to help you and guide you through the feelings and the transformations that happened in my life coming from that same environment that were utterly important for me to feel, for one, self-love, but also to understand what happened to me, why I had the behaviors that I did coming out, and also to stop attracting the same situation over and over and over. There's this transformation that happened from me being so giving and being so, which I thought, I was just being nice. I was being good, but this idea of being nice and being good was getting me into trouble with myself because I was totally ignoring the boundaries that I needed. I had no idea what boundaries were. I didn't know how to communicate them. I didn't know how to feel self-love. I didn't care about my life enough. Other people's lives ruled over mine, and I felt like the side character to my own life story. And writing that type of book just leads to so many confusions because it's like every chapter is just a different person. You have no track. So I'm speaking to anybody who might feel that way and is going through that pain because I was there too. And man, that's one of the most painful times of my life. And I was young, but it doesn't really matter what age you are. When you've gone through abuse, when you've gone through toxic relationships, when you've been manipulated, when you've been emotionally, verbally abused, these things can severely damage our self-schema. They can severely damage our relationships, and they teach us something that is not empathy. They teach us something that is not sincerity, and they also teach us something that is not respecting our boundaries. So I want to talk about and hit these topics, but I really want to dive deep into the love lessons. This is kind of the start of the chapters that I'm going to review with you all and coaching you along through this process of how to love in the healthiest ways. That goes for yourself, that goes for your relationships and your community. So the life that you live, how you move through your life, this all matters. And it so boils down to this deeper love that we are missing. And I think the most important thing that can get us to this other side is learning how to love. We'll be learning these topics. And I want to start with empathy today. I'm very excited to be able to teach this to you guys. It's been my life work. Well, within the period of time of me coming out of the toxic and manipulative environments that I did grow up in, this is what I dedicate all of my extra time to, all of my extra research, all of my extra writing. I'm just so excited to be able to share and to be able to teach and to be able to help guide others along this path. By no means is anyone perfect in it. I can't say that I'm perfect in any way. sure did learn a lot, and I transformed a lot throughout my life. And the thing that sucked about it was that I did it all on my own. I want that girl who was 17 years old to just know that she is loved, and to know what love is supposed to look like and feel like. And she just didn't feel it. She didn't feel that freedom, that freeing feeling that unconditional love and self-love really is. She didn't know what empathy was, these basic feelings, things about our human connection that have been so lost if you grew up or have been in a toxic, manipulative, abusive environment. So I am speaking to people who have had this experience in their lives. You are the reason why I am sharing this. And if you have a story, I want you to be able to speak on it with me. Feel free to set up a time just to go one-on-one with me. I want to work through this course with you. You are the reason that I do all of this. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get into empathy. So number one, empathy. I think one of the biggest lessons that I could take out of learning what healthy love is supposed to look like is what it wasn't. And what I mean by that is by feeling the manipulation of another person, by feeling these defense mechanisms and things that they put onto you, making you feel like crud, is the complete opposite of what empathy is. Empathy is feeling the emotions that the other person is feeling in the moment, and it also is within the constructs of self-empathy, the empathy to feel your emotions. So you're being empathetic to what you're going through and the situations that arise that make you feel uncomfortable, that make you feel scared, that make you feel happy. These are the basic emotions that are shared with everyone in human life. But what happens in these abusive and toxic, emotionally immature environments is that these emotions get made fun of, they get put down, they get told that they're not true. So now we're seeking for validation to even feel. So it creates this separation of, should I feel this? Should I not? You're not actually feeling it if you're asking yourself that question. It's okay to feel, and it is valid to feel. You can't control not feeling something. It's impossible. If something does hurt you, it's going to hurt you. But anyways, it creates this separation. And going back to that as well, I want to point out and make it clear, when someone starts to be the one that you look to for that validation of your feelings, they are manipulating and they are controlling you. And now this is more the case if you're coming out of childhood with these feelings. You can feel like you need to have validation with things later on in life if you've already learned that lesson of behavior. So if you notice that behavior, ask yourself if it is you that is putting that on yourself or if it is the other person. And this might be a very hard thing to do before you have all the lessons and training that you might receive in the course. But I'll explain a little bit more right now as best I can outside of the course and the construct of that, and allow you to have that opportunity to ask all the questions that you need so that we can work through it and help you get that understanding that you need. A question that comes up to me in my mind from what I was feeling in the past, it would have been the question of, why do I feel this way? Okay. Now unpacking that, that load right there. At that point, I was feeling so down and depressed and hopeless that I had no other feeling left to be asking any other question. if you've ever felt that intense feeling for such long periods of time, and you've been in toxic relationships, and you've been in manipulative environments, emotionally immature environments, then you very well might know that feeling. It's kind of like walking on eggshells. It's kind of like intense sadness that you just can't even place anymore because it wasn't one event that did it that day. It's the place you live. It's the control that you feel. You feel like you are not free, like you have no control over your life. You don't even feel comfortable walking in your own shoes. And especially where that other person lives, if it's a singular abuser or if it is the environment, right? If it's the house, whatever the situation. But I had to ask myself, why do I feel this way? And I remember that was the first eye-opening experience that I had of actually listening to how I felt. And it literally took such intense emotion for such a long period of time for me to realize that all of those other past experiences of living through this roller coaster was starting to get to a point where I could not consciously understand my feelings or feel. I was becoming very, very detached. So it was that huge just wake up moment for me. And you may have questions like that. You may have questions more on the side of coming out of living in that environment that more hit on the topics of the processes and how to and why. And I will focus on those processes or practices in the course. So I would love for you to join. But I think it's very important to hit on where all of that stemmed from so that we can really dive into feeling that empathy for ourselves in those moments. We have to be honest and sincere with ourselves about those events in our past. We have to be honest with ourselves in those events of our past that made us feel so crappy and cruddy, to be able to tap into the feelings that we might be having later on after and maybe in the state that we are now. The biggest thing that I want you to know about empathy is that it is the feeling. You have to feel. So we can't be detached. We have to be very honest and sincere to be able to be connected to what it is that we are truly feeling. And we have to take a scan of our body and our health and our mind to see where we are at, what we are feeling, and what those things are even called or how to express those things, right, in words. Hearing other people's stories who have gone through similar things help us to identify the feelings that we are having. And that breeds connection. That breeds empathy for others. That breeds empathy for ourselves just by listening and being there for other people and listening to their stories as well. It helps us be there for ourselves too, because we know we're not alone. That is the hugest, most beautiful thing about all of this, is that we are not alone, even through some of the worst things that can happen to people. I just know that there are so many more people who are suffering in silence than there are people who are sharing what they've gone through. And that is exactly why I'm making this course, so we can just delve through, really dig into our experiences, learn how to love in a healthy way for ourselves and for the other people around us, so we can live this life that feels free from this bondage, this control of past trauma from abuse, past trauma from manipulative relationships, or emotionally immature environments, toxic environments. We touched on what empathy is. I told you that that is feeling the emotions, right? You might be saying, okay, empathy, feeling, got it. We all feel stuff. So what the heck are you teaching? Well, what we're going deeper into is how to communicate that. How can I communicate empathy? How can I practice empathy with myself, communicate it to myself? Because we have thoughts that go through our mind at 1,000,000 miles per minute, especially when we're in states that are less than ideal. We're having very possibly very negative self-talk when we come out of abuse or when we come out of traumatic experiences. So that same communication that you think that you give to yourself about what love is, if you're not caring enough to give yourself the love and the care and that free feeling of just unconditional love, it's going to be really hard for you to communicate that to other people and be there for them how you want to. This does tie into boundaries, and that will be the third lesson of the series. When we're communicating empathy to somebody else and they are telling us about their day and something terrible happened at their work, or they lost their job, or something crazy terrible, right? If you are in a state where you are feeling so much sadness within yourself that you can't even bear to take on any more sadness, you might be disassociating from that conversation, and you might be disassociating from feeling anything to even be there for them. This is why it's so important to have self-love. This is also why it's so important to be out of a toxic relationship, environment, emotionally immature, traumatic environment. So the way to be empathetic in this situation is to feel with that person, to be present with that person, and to express to them how you are connecting to how they feel in that moment. They lose their job. Oh man, I feel like such a failure. My job, it meant everything to me, and I lost it. I'm so upset. I'm so mad at myself. You can understand that feeling, and you can feel that emotion with them. You can be like, man, that sucks so bad. You can be there for them by sitting with them in their emotion and confirming that you're feeling that with them. Do you want me to just listen to you right now? Do you need to vent? Just let me know what you need. And that right there just shows that you're there for them. That you can also understand their feelings, and you're giving them the ability to tell you how you can be there for them in the best way possible. Some people want to just vent. Other people feel like they need some help. Well, you could ask them if they need help with their job search. You could bring them cookies and bring them food the next, couple of days, just whatever their mood booster might be. You can ask them directly, like, how can I be there for you, man? It's important to just be there for each other. And that's the root of empathy. That's the root of connection. We don't want to jump over the opportunity to connect with somebody because we're thinking and feeling, oh man, they're having this bad emotion. How can I help them to stop feeling this bad emotion? Oh my gosh, I don't want them to feel that. I love them so much. I can't let them do that. No, stop. Take a deep breath. This is their moment to feel. We do not want to be that person that pushes their feelings away because we are uncomfortable with them. That's not our role. And it's also a violation of connection. If you have that bad habit right now, I'll encourage you to take what I'm teaching and practice these things. Learn more about what empathy is, how to communicate it. I have an emotional word wheel guide that can also help with finding the right words of what different feelings might be, just so we can better communicate how we might be feeling, which is another important part about empathy. So empathy for yourself is what allows us to be empathetic to others. But we need to understand that feeling empathy for ourselves can be difficult. It can be a lot harder for us to understand and to implement because it's all dependent on ourselves and the self-schema that we have. And this might take time to adjust within our minds. So I want to strongly encourage the use of affirmations. I listen to them every night, and I encourage you to do the same, especially if you join in on the course. That will be something that we practice and implement in. And I don't want anyone to feel like the affirmations need to be some, ooh, manifest money, like da 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 da, I'm gonna have this great career, like I am the universe. No, we don't have to do it like that. I actually prefer to do affirmations that are self-healing, self-confidence, courage, self-love. These basic affirmations that can help rewire our brains while we sleep to make us wake up and start to feel better about our lives. What we're doing with these affirmations and listening to these affirmations is we are rewiring connections in our brain so that they have these different thought patterns. Because right now, if you have the thought patterns that tear you down and have such negative self-talk, it's a default. And the only way to get out of that default mode is to flip the switch. This means that we're putting our minds out of that negative self-talk pattern. Listening to these affirmations is what can do that. As we're listening to these affirmations, it's actually something that really will help your mood improve. It's not just that we need to feel better about ourselves to feel empathy for ourselves. It's to be more present and to allow us a break from any of the negative feelings. Because what happens when we feel such intense negative feelings, like I was mentioning before, is that we tend to disassociate from pain. And if we're doing that, we're disassociating from our feelings. So we're not feeling empathy because we're not feeling. This creates this crazy negative cycle. So what we're wanting to do is to implement some good positive things, some things that will improve our mood so that we can feel better for a period of time, and then come back to feelings that maybe were more painful, but be able to handle them in a much more regulated way. And if you want to think about it as like balancing your emotions, it's a lot like that. Feeling empathy for yourself is not being mad about feeling sad. It's not about, oh my gosh, I wish I felt happier. It's about feeling the emotions that we're feeling, being present with ourselves, being honest, and then being able to take action in our lives to heal from any of those pain points. That can mean that we're actively going to choose better environments. That could also mean that we choose activities that improve our mood. Mood follows action. That's something I love from the Rich Roll podcast. If you ever have a chance, listen. Other actions that might be more empathetic for yourself are journaling, meditating, doing yoga. Sorry, my doggies came out, so you get to hear them for a second being crazy. Yep, messing up my video. And my sister messing up my video. So being empathetic for yourself really just looks like sitting and being sincere about how you're feeling. Taking the time to feel your emotions, with that time to just scan how you're feeling. So empathy for yourself is taking the time to do that systems check of your mind, body, and spirit, and to feel those emotions, to be present with yourself, to not constantly distract yourself from feeling emotions or to stay too busy to where you don't have enough time to really settle down and have maybe that peace and quiet time that you need, which is something that I just wrote about in a blog article. So if you haven't checked that one out, I'll link it down below. And I really hope I'm not preaching to the choir here, because I've been there and it truly did not feel like I was going to make it out. And I don't want anyone else to feel that alone. I know that I can't control that, but I'm doing my best to control what I can and to at least provide the information and provide the community, provide me as a resource and share the story so that if you're going through these pains, that to transform your life and to get out of that toxic internal environment that just feels like you're constantly under control. Love is feeling free to express yourself, free to say what you mean, to communicate boundaries, to be sincere. These are the beautiful freedoms that we get when we learn how to love, when we learn how to love ourselves, to learn other people, and to love our lives. Moving through life like that is the kind of life that I want to live, and it's the kind of life that I want you to be able to live as well. So if you are looking for a course, go to the website, put your email in, go ahead and grab the Emotional Word Wheel Guide, and you'll be subscribed to my newsletter where I give you the updates of all of my blog articles, YouTube videos like the one you're watching, and I'll also be able to update you when the course comes out. And if you're super interested and you just can't wait, go ahead, DM me on Instagram. So comment below if you want to join the pre-list for the course, and let me know some of the things that you've been struggling with that you might want to see inside the course as well. Look forward to that, and I will be seeing you guys again soon. I love you. Remember that you are never alone. I will be talking again with you guys here soon. Peace, y'all. So as a review for the first lesson in love, empathy, you've got to have self-empathy. You've got to have empathy for others. And what empathy is allowing that space to feel emotions, to be present, to be understanding, and to communicate those things to others and to yourself so that we have a reminder for ourselves as well to really truly experience what we are feeling. Not to deem or judge any feelings as bad or good. That is what empathy is not. So remember, it is connection. It is allowing space for feelings. It is being truly present and unjudging.